Hi, I'm Carla Cannon, and I wanted to talk to you about a simple, easy way to start the practice of morning time in your family. There's lots of information on morning time these days. It's kind of a big thing in the homeschooling world. We call it our morning basket. That's the thing. Pam Barnhill has lots of great resources, but I just wanted to show you how it can be simple, quick, and not at all overwhelming. This is kind of geared for those of you with younger kids, but you could use the same principle if you were starting off a morning time with older kids and just swap out the resources that I'm recommending. All right, so number one, the first thing you need to do is you need to make a little list of the things that you want to incorporate in your morning time. It will look different for every family, and that is okay, but I think the key thing in order for it to be successful is, number one, that you need to make a little list, and it can just be on a piece of notebook paper. It doesn't have to be fancy, and just write down what you want to do and the order that you want to do it in. The reason that I think this is so important is because when we're busy with young kids, life is hectic, and the more decisions you have to make, the less likely you're going to want to do this. So if you have a little list of what you want to do and the resource that you're going to use for it, it will help you be on autopilot. You won't have to think about it. The other thing I would say is get a list started and then get some kind of a basket or a container. I have a big bin that I use for my big kids, and this is what I use for my youngest. As you can see, it's not very big, but it helps me keep everything in one place. And so you get everybody together, you start, and then you lose them because you have to run and look for whatever it was you're going to use. So whether it's a bin or a basket or a shelf that you put things on, keep things together and have a list of what you're going to do and do the same order as much as you can every day. So you have your list, you have a bin to put things in. The next thing that I would say is you need to think about where you want to work it in your day. Even though we call it morning time or your morning basket, you can do it any time of the day. It doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you. But I like the idea of pegging it to something that you do already. So I kind of got this idea from Sarah Mackenzie, and think about something that happens every day anyway, such as breakfast or the baby toddler's afternoon nap, and then kind of have it in your mind, okay, when we do that, then we're going to have our morning time, and that way you don't forget about it and the kids kind of come to expect it. So I think that's important too. I've been doing it after breakfast with my youngest, and that's worked well. I think during nap time, if you have little ones, that would be great too. So whatever works for your family. So to kind of help you out here, what I would say is I'm going to show you what I have on our list, and I'll go through that quickly and then show you some resources that we really like. But you can, of course, plug your own things in there that appeal to your family and your kids. So number one, I wanted to do some kind of a Bible story. We don't really do devotions when they're super young as much as a Bible story, and so we do that. We do a memory verse. We sometimes sing a song, sometimes not, depending on how the day is. And then I do a little bit of nonfiction reading. We read a picture book, read a nursery rhyme, and sometimes end it with a game, depending on how much time I have. So that kind of sounds like a lot, but truly it only takes me 15 minutes because I don't have to think about it. I have it all written down what I'm going to do, and I have my resources gathered and ready to go, so it's super efficient. And I think that's really important because if I had to think too hard, I wouldn't do it. I would get distracted with something else. So my next tip is, once you kind of have made a little list of the things that you want to do, I would say start small. Start with one, at most maybe two things. I wouldn't even call it morning time or make a big deal about it. It's just like, oh, hey, we're gonna read our Bible story together that Mom got, and read it, and that's it. Once you kind of get in the routine of pegging it to a certain time of your day and doing that, add one more thing. And then if that is going really well in a week or two or however long it takes, add one more thing. And this way you're not throwing this big, whoo, this is this new thing that we're gonna do with mommy, and maybe that's too much for you and your kids. So just kind of feather things in, one thing at a time, and this has worked really well for my family. When I started with my little kids who are now bigger, we did the same thing, and we started with one or two things, and now we have a very extensive morning time that includes lots of subjects. But we started small and then just built up from there. And you have years to do it. You don't have to do it when your kids are 4. You've got time. So I think that's a good thing to remember. I wanted to just share with you a few of our favorite resources that we've used over the years, and so what I'm using right now, and just a couple other suggestions. I do not do all of these at one time. So just really quickly, what we're using right now is for our Bible story. And if you don't, if Bible stories aren't your thing, then you could easily do something like the children's small book of virtues, or character training, or anything along those lines. I think it's nice to nourish the soul first thing. So that's our goal. So right now we are using the Jesus Storytime Bible. It's lovely illustrations. It's by Sally Lloyd-Jones, and I just really like it. It's written a little bit differently than your typical children's Bible. All of the stories are pointing towards the coming of Jesus, and it's just kind of been a fun take on it. So that's what we're doing right now, and it's been great. After we finish this, here I'll show you about how much text on a page. So these, is definitely for a child who can sit for a little bit longer story without a lot of, there are pictures, there's lots of pictures, but there's also a lot of text per page. But we've really been enjoying this. Again, I'm using this with my daughter, who is 5, but she is the youngest of 3 kids, and she's very good at sitting for long stories. That doesn't bother her. So you may want to go with something a little shorter if you have younger kids. As I had mentioned, you could do something like the children's book of virtues. This is just a thin one, and they've got little poems and stories. So that's kind of a fun one. Other ones, if you have really young kids and you're just wanting to start a morning time, this has always been our first go-to Bible. It's called the First Step Bible, and I just got it on Amazon, and you can see there is very little text per page. Lots of pictures, very little text. Sometimes it rhymes, and we'll do this with young kids, and it's perfect. It's also great once your kids are starting to read and they're beginning readers. It's a fun book for them to read independently. So we've kind of double used this for a couple purposes. The next step up from this Bible, I would say, is this Beginner's Bible, and it is by, let me see, Zonder Kids. It's kind of the next step up, so there's still lots and lots of pictures, but a little bit more text per page. And my son has been reading this for our reading together, and he is in 2nd grade. So once again, we kind of dual purpose there once they're older, but for a younger kid, that's a nice one as well. And then kind of the last step, I would say, is the one that we're currently doing. So that one, and then once we finish up the Jesus Storybook Bible this fall, I'm going to move to the Family Time Bible in pictures. And once again, just a little bit more text, still pictures, but I know my daughter will be ready for it, and we really have enjoyed this in the past. So a few different options for Bible or character training. The next thing that we do is memory verses. And let me tell you here for a second, time and having kids does give you some perspective. When I had these songs, they're called Songs for Saplings, and you can purchase the CD on Amazon, or I just bought it on iTunes and downloaded it to my phone, and then that's handy because I always have my phone with me. And then there's also a free download you can get, and I will put a link to that below, of little cards you can print off little cards you can print off and throw in your morning basket as just kind of a visual reminder. So these are super short little verses. There's one verse for every letter of the alphabet, which is kind of fun. And my mistake with my oldest daughter when I had bought these is I thought it all had to interconnect. I made it too complicated. I thought, okay, we have to learn the verse for the letter that she's learning, and she has to memorize it perfectly and be able to recite it and say the reference. And as you can guess, we didn't do very many because I was expecting too much of her, and it doesn't have to coordinate with the letter that they're learning. You know, it doesn't always timeline work out the same way. So I'm taking a much more relaxed approach, and surprise, it's going much better. So hopefully you can do that as well. I just have the Songs for Saplings on my phone, and when we get to that part of our morning time, we listen to the song once, we sing it, we look at the little card, and that's it. And it's perfect, and she doesn't have to say it perfectly, and we'll just go on to the next song when we're ready. So it's been really fun and a little bit more enjoyable, as you can imagine. So, but anyways, those are super cute and great for young kids. After our singing our memory verse, sometimes we'll sing like a little preschool song, kindergarten type song. Lots of times we don't. If you have a little boy that would think that's awful, don't do it. If you have a little girl who loves to sing, throw in singing a song. It's fun. So I think either way on that one, whatever works for you. All right, so after our little song, we go into some nonfiction reading. And I think it's really great and important to read nonfiction with young kids, and it can be very enjoyable. You just don't want to slam them with too much. One of my favorite companies ever is Usborne Books. And they have a series called First Encyclopedia. And I have all of these First Encyclopedias because they are fabulous and beautiful pictures and not a ton of text. So they have them, you know, the First Encyclopedia of our Earth, the First Encyclopedia of Space, the First Encyclopedia of the human body. So lots and lots of topics. Just pick one that would interest your kids. We're doing animals right now. I think it's the perfect place to start because what little kiddo doesn't love animals? And I'm just going to show you a couple pictures here. So this one kind of goes through the different types of animals, like mammals, reptiles, that type of thing. Gorgeous pictures, but not a ton of text. And we would only read 2 pages in a given day. And I don't always read it word for word. I'll paraphrase if something's a little beyond her understanding, and that's perfectly fine. But the pictures are just beautiful, and she really finds it interesting, and we just read and talk about it, and onward ho. Doesn't take very long, not more than a couple minutes. So that's been a big hit. Some other things for nonfiction. Once again, I'm a huge Usborne fan. They have these books, the Usborne Beginners series, and these are on a million different topics. I have tons of them. Gorgeous pictures again, not too much text, and you could just read a page or 2 or more if your kid is into it, but I certainly wouldn't push to read all of it. So like this one is on elephants, and once again, we would just read a page, like, you know, 2 pages, a couple more if they're asking, and then just kind of wrap it up when they're done. So these are great for reading to, well, really any age kids, but young kids especially. And once again, these are fabulous as your kids are starting to read. My son really enjoys reading for information, and so these books have been fantastic for him as he's becoming, you know, as he's developing his reading. So once again, the Usborne Beginners series. And then the last one I wanted to show you nonfiction wise is, and I'll probably start this, my plan is in 1st grade, so I wouldn't do it when they're super young, but they have the Usborne First Illustrated Science Dictionary. The dictionary part, don't let that throw you, but really it's just, you know, kind of some introduction to science, and it has all kinds of topics, nice pictures, you know, anything from how materials to exploring forces, you name it. So can't go wrong with Usborne for your nonfiction reading, and just read 1 or 2 pages. That's it. Favorite nonfiction author as well is Gail Gibbons, and she has tons of great nonfiction book for young kids, all the way through not so young, 6th grade and beyond, I would say. So those are something you could look up and you'll definitely find at your local library. All right, so we've done our Bible story, we've done our quick memory verse, we have done some nonfiction reading, and we're at maybe 6 or 7 minutes, depending on the interest level. We can keep it super short or have a big talk about the animals, however it's flowing, but it doesn't need to take very long. And so after our nonfiction reading, I like to do a little nursery rhyme. I think you could get just about any nursery rhyme book. This is the one that we're using right now, Treasury of Mother Goose, and we read, a page to 2 pages to just one nursery rhyme, depending on the interest level. So that's fun. I think I love nursery rhymes. I think they're so nice to incorporate. So quick little nursery rhyme. And then we do a picture book. And really, you could read any picture book, but the only thing I would suggest is to have it ready. If have your kids gathered and you're doing your morning time and then you have to go find a picture book, you will lose them by the time you come back with it. So I would either, the day before, tuck into your bin whatever picture book you want to read for the next day, or put in 4 or 5 so you're ready for a few days in a row. Or even more convenient, I think, is to get a treasury of picture book, of different books all in one, and then you can just work your way through that. So right now, because we're reading the animal nonfiction book, then I have this book, the Usborne Treasury of Animal Stories, and she loves picture books and is really good for sitting without, there doesn't have to be a tiny amount of text and lots of pictures. That's the stage she's at. So you have to, your kid, and pick books that are going to be something that they enjoy and not that you're going to lose them for. So for us, this is working really well. Longer text and still pictures on every page, and fun illustrations. They're all different little animal stories. So that's working out really well. And like I said, you don't have to have a treasury. I just find it convenient so I don't have to think about it. We'll just read through that, and then I'll get another treasury and we'll read through that. One that I got her for Christmas that we love is the Little House Treasury. And so then, beautiful pictures and not too much text. This fall, once we finish this animal treasury that we're on, I got this from Sunlight as part of one of their packages. So it's the Lion Storyteller Bedtime Book. And once again, it's more text, less pictures. And if your child is ready for that, great. Otherwise, just stick with shorter picture books. But once again, I find it really convenient to have an anthology. And that's pretty much it. If we have time, then I've kind of tacked on mentally on my list, but I don't necessarily commit to it all the time, that I will play a game with my daughter, because I do morning time separately with my older 2 kids, and this is something I have just been doing with my 5-year-old, and it's kind of our special time, and it's our time to connect and do something with the 2 of us. So that's kind of one of the goals for me. Depending on the ages of your kids and how many you have to make that work for your family, and doing something all together, I think, is great. Just for this season of our life, this is what's working for us. So we play a little game, and hands down, I don't have them to show you, but our 2 favorite games are Rat-a-Tat-Cat, love that game, and Sleeping Queens. And I just got those on Amazon. I'll throw some links down below, and great. They only take a few minutes, and it's kind of a fun way to wrap it up. Also, we use some of the Spot It games. There's Spot It Alphabet and Spot It Numbers, and those are a really fun way to throw in some age-appropriate skills. So just start small, make your list of the things that you're kind of your wish list for morning time and the order you think you'd like to do things in, and then start with 1 or 2 things, feather them in, and before you know it, you'll be getting to everything on your list. And it sounds like a lot, but because I have my list and I am on autopilot, I don't have to think, oh, what should we do? I don't have to look for it, and I have it all ready to go in one place. We can do all of that in 15 minutes. And we've had some connection, we've read some things, and I love the conversations that spill out of it afterwards. So, and then also I just would think, as you're planning for it, peg it to some point in your day. You know, are you going to do it after breakfast? Are you going to do it when your baby or toddler is having a nap in the afternoon? Maybe you do it in the evening when dad is home, and that's the time of day that works for you. There's no best way to do it. Just, you have to find the time of day that works for you. And if you have little kids, it's going to change. What works really well one month may not work at all the next month when the sleep habits of the youngest change. So don't feel like you're failing if you try something and then you need to adapt and switch it and change, because that's just life with little kids. And let me tell you, that part of your life smooths out as your kids get older. I'm not in that stage anymore, and it's a lot easier. And so don't feel like you're failing when you need to change and adapt, and you make a plan and then you have to change it again. It's not failing, it's being flexible and adapting and bringing joy and enjoyment to your family. So don't feel bad about making a plan and then changing it. That's okay. I hope this inspires you to do a morning basket time with your kids, no matter when in the day you do it. And I can tell you, looking back, it is some of the most precious times I've spent with my kids. The discussions we've had, the books we've read, just warm my heart, and I hope that you can enjoy this practice in your own home, and that it will be the blessing to you that it has been to us. So enjoy and have lots of fun with your kiddos.